Something a little different for this morning. So kind of in the same vein as my Pioneer PL41 versus PL50 versus PL50A video where I'm comparing all three models. I wanted to take just a few minutes and talk about two Denon turntables. I have a 45F and a 47F. So I want to talk about the differences between the tables. One of these is going to be leaving because now, depending upon when I release this video, it could be in a future video or it could be in a past video. Either way, I talk about I was left unsupervised one night, had a few cocktails, and wound up buying a Denon DP60L. Oh, and those are CS99s I just picked up off of Craigslist. Great speakers. And another Denon DL or DP60L and a Pioneer PL610 and a Sony PSX75. Got them all for great prices. In fact, between this Denon DP60 and the other Denon DP60, I spent less than $400 for two of them. So, but anyway, there will be some videos coming up on those. Those are JBL C38 Barons that are mine, and I'm going to shoot a series on those once it gets warm. It's going to be an interesting conversation about those speakers and what happened to them. But anyway, I digress. So we have a DP45F and a DP47F. So I want to get some shots of them side by side. So if you're considering one or the other, or potentially both of these, you'll know kind of what the size differences are. Cosmetically, they're a little bit different. Now, I wish I had, a silver DP47F to show you side by side. This is the black version, which I think is cool. So anyway, let's look at the differences between the specific turntables. So number one, size-wise, the Denon is quite a bit taller. And again, I'm going to have to part with one of these, and I'm going to tell you which one I'm parting with at the end of the video and why I'm parting with it. But the DP47F, quite a bit taller. Width-wise, I think it might be a little more narrow, and I haven't measured it. I guess I could probably get a tape measure and measure it. In fact, let me do that. So as is usually the case, and as you know from watching my previous videos, if you have, I don't give my videos a lot of thought. So literally, I'm walking around the house this morning, I'm like, hey, I should shoot a video on that. So I'm kind of thinking about what I'm going to talk about as I grab the tripod from the garage. So anyway, so let's see, the 45F looks to be about 17.25 inches across. So the 47F is a little bit more narrow when looking at it from the front. Depth 15.5 on the DP47 and a little over 15.5 on the DP45. So the 47F is definitely a little more narrow. So if we look at the turntables with the covers up, the 47, and I'm not sure if this is true of all 47s. This one has kind of a smoky dust cover. It could be because it's not the silver version of it. I run the 45F with a Denon DL60 cartridge. The DP47, typically I have an Audio-Technica VM530. And that's a great cartridge right now. It's running a Shure. I wanted to test this stylus out on this one. They both have the Denon servo tracer arm. They both have similar platters, right? So the platters have cutouts, so the turntables will sense the size of the record, right? So we have cutouts. This light shines down. There are some sensors underneath, so if you put a 33 on or a 45 on, size-wise, it'll automatically sense both of those. They're both quartz lock. They have similar functions. Now, I love Captain Mark 09's videos on his Denon turntable restoration. So please, if you want to know exactly what these turntables do and see them in operation, watch some of his videos. If you look at the button layout, it's similar. So we have power, speed controls. We have a locate feature where you hit those buttons and the tone arm will move in and out. You have an up and down for the tone arm, and then you have a start and stop. Right, a little bit different on the 45. We have power, 33 start, 45 start, locate buttons, lift up, repeat button. Yeah, and there's not a repeat button on the 47. You have auto start, and then you have stop. Weight wise, these are similar in weight. You know what? Let me get some specs. I'll come back and I'll talk about at least what I found on Vinyl Engine in terms of the specs for these. All right, I did some real quick Google foo. So, and please, if I'm incorrect, put some comments on the video. DP45F is about 15 pounds, maybe 15 and a half pounds. The DP47 is a little over 18, so about 18 and a half pounds. The Denon DP45 on the left is early 80s. The DP47F is mid 80s. Again, I'm just going by a real quick search, so if I'm wrong, please correct me in the comments. In terms of the tone arm length, I believe the tone arm length is the same on both, 220 millimeters. It's kind of hard to tell if that's correct or not, and I couldn't quickly get the specs on the 45, so I think it was 220 on the 47. In terms of how they operate, they're really identical. The dynamic servo arm on these, these just track like a dream. So I really like that about both of them. I'll be honest with you though, I prefer the chunky, tall DP47F cosmetically if I'm looking at something to the DP45F. I used to be into like the slim kind of turntable because that's what I grew up with. I never had a turntable that was this large until I got into some of the older turntables as I got back into listening to vinyl. But when I was a kid, it was all just skinny, early 80s, mid 80s, inexpensive turntables. Now that I'm a little bit older and I actually will sit and enjoy listening to a record and what I'm looking at, I really prefer the larger plinths. Now in terms of performance, I don't really notice a difference, but I'm not really comparing these sonically with the same head shell the same head shell, but with the same cartridge and all that kind of stuff. The head shells are a little bit different, so if you have to buy a replacement, notice how on the 45, the head shell, it's shaped a little bit differently than the 47, right? So make sure if you have to buy a replacement head shell, I'm not sure if they're interchangeable. I'm not sure if you can use a 45 on the 47 or vice versa. I do have some head shells from a 35 that I used to have that unfortunately just went crazy on me one day, and it suffered some damage to one of the ICs, so I did keep the head shell off of that one. But anyway, so I don't know really much if there's anything else to cover on these. Again, I just wanted to kind of show them side by side, maybe get another little angle shot so you can see what they look like. I would have no problem keeping both of these, and I've had both of these for well over a year. In terms of which one I'm going to keep, I'm going to be keeping, even though I prefer the look of the 47, I'm going to be keeping the 45 because of how I listen to it and where I listen to it. So there is going to be a little follow-on showing you where the 45 is kept, and I know some of you are going to cringe when I show you where I keep this. But basically I have a setup in my living room where the turntable sits in a drawer. And then when I want to listen to it, I just open the drawer and I put a record on. The 47 is too large to go into the drawer. So why am I leaning towards keeping the 45F? Because this is where the 45F spends its time. It's in a drawer in my living room. So the reason why it's in a drawer in my living room is because I have these built-in cabinets, and I've got the turntable here. I've got speakers over here. So if I want to listen to a record in the living room, I slide the drawer out. I open the cabinets with the speakers. The receiver is down underneath, down here. Right now it's a Sansui 7000 and a Nakamichi cassette deck. Right, so this is why I'll probably end up keeping the 45, because the 47 is taller. Right, it's probably the only reason, even though I prefer the look of the 47 to the 45, and that's just my preference. I don't think that one is better looking necessarily than the other two. The vast majority of people, right, everyone is going to have a preference. I prefer the look of the 47 to the 45. But for, you know, my purposes, the 45 is a better fit physically for the drawer that the turntable goes into. So again, I'm going to likely opt to keep the 45 and not the 47 for this reason only. Again, I prefer the look of the 47 to the 45, but this is the one I will most likely keep. Not saying it's better, right? It's just for what I need it for, this works better. And honestly, I can't, there's no sense in me keeping turntables that I'm just going to shove in a closet, right? I already have some turntables in a closet. A lot of them I'm waiting on parts for, or I'm working on. In fact, let me give you a little tour. So anyway, I'm going to be keeping the 47. But, so like I have this one I'm going to be keeping. I have this one, once I get it done, I'm going to be selling. That 610 is a long story that I'll share. Right. Here's my office closet where I keep some of my stuff. Oop, trying to get my tripod in here. So as you can see, I already have too many turntables in here. I mean, I've got a 630 that I've been working on. It's not 100%. My 6300 I'm working on. It's not 100%. This PL41 I need to change. This is the one I shot in earlier videos. I need to swap out the tone arm wires. They're too tight. They're pulling on the tone arm. That PL30 there is one I've shot in a previous video. I need to replace a switch on that. That's actually my a family member's turntable, so I will keep that one. But as you can see, I have too many. And this is what I call the 90% club. Everything in here is like working 90% of the way. So, and then I've got some, those are the Bozaks I'm going to continue working on. So there's more to come on those. And these are just some ARs I got at a really good price. So I keep them just because. You never know when you need some backup speakers. So anyway, there's the 45 and the 47 head-to-head. Which one do you prefer? If you prefer one over the other, put it in the comments. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. I actually put a forum, I started a thread on Audio Karma because I was down to keeping one. I want to keep one manual, like 100% manual turntable. It's down to the Pioneer PL41 and my Thorens TD165. And when I listed my other turntables, a couple of folks, there weren't a lot of comments on the thread, but the folks that did comment on the turntables that I had, it seemed like everyone thought, in terms of these two, the 45 was a better turntable than the 47. And that could be, again, cosmetically, I have a preference for the 47. But anyway, I'm just rambling now. So, yeah, so hopefully someone will find this useful if they're considering one of these two great turntables. Can't go wrong with either one. Like I tell a lot of people in the record shop, if I'm hanging out down there and they ask my opinion on something, you know, a lot of the time it comes down to how much you want to spend and what you want to look at, right? Because if you get something that's been serviced and is working, right, that's what it comes down to. I don't like to get into this turntable's better than this turntable. It's like you go with what you like. You know, there are things that you can do to modify a lot of turntables some of the time, right? So you kind of do. I don't know, just go with what you like. So anyway, enough of me talking. Ralph is coming in to hang out. Hey, Ralph. So that's it for this video. If you like what you see, hit like, hit subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.